Used to taking the command is going to give it. Rick Mears, all yours.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Emerson Fittipaldi sits on the pole position. The command to start the engines given by his former teammate, Rick Mears. And you know, Derek Daly, there's a very special bond developing between not only Mears and Fittipaldi, but Rick Mears and young Paul Tracy.
Well, particularly with Paul Tracy. Dan Luganbill, who works for Roger Penske, his right-hand man, said it's amazing. Rick Mears is almost like a brother to Paul Tracy, and what a great situation for a 24-year-old to come into a big team like this in one of the largest racing series in the world and have a Rick Mears as your confidant that you can turn to and ask questions and get advice and really use as a bit of a security blanket.
Here is a man that thought he should have won the Indy 500, just going away on the left of your screen. That is Raul Boesel, Danny Sullivan, there's Johansson. Boesel has had a tough season, 3 second-place finishes, and he was 4th in the Indy 500. Now, Derek, explain, this course is 1.78 miles, 103 laps, but there will be several laps before the green flag.
Warm-up laps or parade laps, whatever you want to call them. The drivers go around 3 times before they get the green flag. Now, if they get a yellow flag, if something happens at the start, the race laps do start then, but this lap does not count in the race. This is purely parade, warm-up, warm the tires, warm the driver, warm the transmission, warm everything before they go to battle.
There is Raul Boesel, followed by Al Unser Jr., Ari Lyondike, Nigel Mansell. Car 2 is Scott Goodyear, Teo Fabi. You know, it's interesting. A lot of people new to racing, a lot of people that don't watch racing on a regular basis tune in for this race. They are simply out there now warming the tires, and that is so very, very important.
The key to speed in a racing car is to have those 4 black bits that connect you to the road as warm as possible and as sticky as possible. And that is the only reason they do this backwards and forwards with the steering wheel, to actually rub, abrasively generate heat into those tires.
Well, they will take at least 3 warm-up laps. It's a 28-car field, the biggest in recent memory here in Toronto. And let's run down the field for the 93 Molson Indy. And the great veteran Fittipaldi taking the pole in spectacular fashion yesterday. The Indy 500 champion taking the pole from Paul Tracy, who won in Cleveland last Sunday. They had the provisional pole on Friday here in Toronto. Bobby Rahal had the pole here last year, is back in Alola, the defending series champion. Danny Sullivan, a pole sitter here in 88 and 90, a winner this year in Detroit. Stefan Johansson out of Formula One. Watch out for him. He's got a Penske Chevrolet. Could be strong today. Raul Boesel, the first Ford engine, 3 second-place finishes this year, 4th in Indy. There's a former Indy champion, a 2-time winner in Toronto. Al Unser Jr. is yet to win this year. Ari Lyondike, the Dutchman, trouble on the road courses, 2nd at Indianapolis. Nigel Mansell, a couple of wrecks here this year. He's had 4 poles, well back today. Scott Goodyear, not a bad start for Scott, who had the pole in Phoenix. Teo Fabi, the small driver, a veteran from Milano, Italy. Robbie Gordon, one of the young Lions, driving for the great veteran A.J. Voigt. Mario Andretti, won in Phoenix, first win since Cleveland in '88. Roberto Guerrero, driving car number 40 from Colombia. Bertrand Gachot, another driver with European and Formula One experience. The young Andrea Montermini, he was 4th in Detroit. Jimmy Vasser will drive car 18, the Cadillac Special. He's from California. Here is Brian Till. We call this 99, the Gretzky car. Scott Brayton, driving for Amway, is out of Coldwater, Michigan. Scott Pruitt, bad accident a couple of years ago. The legs are fine. He's on row 10. Willie T. Ribbs on row 11, driving for Bill Cosby. Mark Smith, young Oregon driver, drove so well in Portland before going out with mechanical problems. Kevin Cogan, bad accident a couple of years ago at Indy, first race back on a road course. Marco Greco, part of the international contingent here. We go to row 13. Speaking of international drivers, Mashusta from Japan. Ross Bentley, he has finished all 6 races he started from Coquitlam, British Columbia. Johnny Unser, the other Unser in the race is Bobby Unser's son. Jeff Wood from Wichita, Kansas. And the cars, 28 of them, are now on their second of 3 warm-up laps. And Derek Daly, we're going to take a look at the course in just a minute, but before we do that, as they continue to warm the tires, the cars now come through, completing the second lap, and we'll see if they get a white flag from the starter. But we should explain the start procedure. It's now in the hands of the starter and the pole sitter. There is the one finger from the starter, so one more lap and we will be racing, but it's up to the starter. It's no longer the chief steward, and Paul Tracy cannot jump ahead of Emerson Fittipaldi, the pole sitter.
Well, the rule book clearly states the pole man leads across the line at the start of the race. Unlike during the race on a restart, when as soon as it goes green, you can race at any time wherever you are on the racetrack. So technically, yes, Fittipaldi should lead Paul Tracy across the line. Of course, that's what was caused all the controversy we saw earlier on in Detroit with Mansell and Fittipaldi.
Here is a great shot from the nose of Bobby Rahall's car. To me, this gives the best sense of speed of any camera anywhere in international racing. Now, Rahal just going down Lakeshore Boulevard. This is the fastest portion of this course. They'll be going about 190 miles an hour during the race. You can see him warming up the engine now. Here is Rahal's car, the Miller Genuine Draft, followed by Danny Sullivan, Johansson going into turn number 3. Let's graphically show you this course here in Toronto. It is 1.78 miles long. The straightaway, of course, is at the bottom of the screen. You see the start-finish area. They'll move to the right of that checkered flag, then from right to left across the bottom of your screen at about 190 miles an hour. Then that turn on the bottom left of the screen, the slowest portion of the course, up around the expressway at the top under the word Toronto, and back down through the start-finish line.
Universally claimed and accepted as one of the finest street racing facilities in racing. Great combination of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. And turn 11 is a real test of skill and bravery.
Now remember, car 4 is Emerson Fittipaldi. He is on the left. He must go across the start-finish line before Paul Tracy. Rahal is in behind. The green flag, we are racing in Toronto. Tracy does not make it through first. Fittipaldi is through corner 1 in the lead.
But he made a great effort to come down the outside, but Fittipaldi went down the inside. The Penske's are 1-2, but we're coming to one of the best braking zones at the end of this long back straight.
Emerson Fittipaldi, car 4, followed by Paul Tracy, Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, Johansson, Gordon. There, look at that, Mansell and Andretti side by side.
Teammates side by side. Look at Fabi comes down the inside.
We are racing in Toronto, a good, clean start to what many expect will be the most exciting of all the Molson Indies. Emerson Fittipaldi, he's won here before. He's the Indy 500 champion. Right behind him is Paul Tracy. Down through that very fast turn 11 at 170 miles an hour come the cars of Roger Penske.
That is turn 11 right there. Paul Tracy is right behind him, but turn 11 is the true test of drivers, particularly when you have these cars on full fuel. They have 40 gallons of fuel in every one of these cars as they pass our high-speed camera there.
Danny Sullivan running in the number 4 position. Fittipaldi on the right of the screen. A good place to pass. Tracy will not do it. Tracy, Rahal.
Look at this
Sullivan.
behind here. Another race here behind. That's Al Unser Jr. trying to slide down the inside of Ari Lyondike.
Danny Sullivan, followed by Stefan Johansson. Danny Sullivan, a winner in Detroit. There's Fittipaldi, Rahal, Sullivan, Johansson. Robbie Gordon driving for A.J. Foyt. Car 10 is Ari Lyondike.
Penske's are recognized as the best cars on full fuel loads. The way they're running now. Rahal made a very interesting comment this morning after the warm-up. He believes his car is better on used tires than it is on brand new tires. So he is expecting to be right in contention all through the race. Look at Tracy go left and right at Fittipaldi. He looks very, very strong.
Field now beginning to spread out. Now some distance between Bobby Rahal and the fourth place car of Danny Sullivan. There's Rahal. There's Danny Sullivan. Johansson, a former Formula One driver with a Penske Chevrolet. Gearing down into turn 3. Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy go 1-2. Now on board with Bobby Rahal. Rahal looking ahead to Paul Tracy. A great shot.
This is a second gear corner. Listen to his engine. Up to third. This is where Mansell crashed in practice. This kink here is incredibly fast, right there through the kink. See the way he closes up under braking. Great speed shots here from Rahal's car. Now this is the blast down through the pit straight and past turn 11. One of the most demanding corners in racing, right here, this one here. Right through there, bumped. You can hear that Rahal doesn't go through there flat. You can actually hear him breathe the throttle a little bit. Qualifying 119 miles an hour before he jumps on the brakes. Look at Tracy again, goes down the inside of Fittipaldi. I think he's beginning to tease him.
Well, some great shots there from our directors, Jim Marshall and Chris Elias. Danny Sullivan goes through running fourth. Fittipaldi pursued by Paul Tracy. Tracy had the provisional pole here with a track record on Friday afternoon. The track is very, very bumpy.
You can see those cars bounce around so violently across the bumps. That is one thing, if there's a slight criticism. The drivers have said there is more bumps here than ever before. If you have more bumps, then you just need to work a little bit more, a little bit harder with your engineer to make your car absorb and cope with those bumps a little bit better. Oh, Jeff Wood crashes. Jeff Wood in Antonio Ferrari's car. Didn't do much practice at qualifying here, loses it, and kisses the wall with the front of the car.
And Johnny Unser, Bobby Unser's son, just missing Jeff Wood.
And this may cause a yellow. If he stalled the engine, we may have a full course yellow to get rid of that car. It's local yellow at the moment. We can clearly see that Jeff Wood realizes he better get out of that office immediately.
Jeff Wood in a Lola Cosworth. It is only a local yellow. We still see the starter stand here. Still no full course yellow, Derek.
No, they're going to have to try and get that car out of there very, very smartly. Here we see it in replay. Into the back straight, and he loses it under braking. Look at this. He locks up those rear brakes. Watch the front. Look, kisses the wall, smashes the wing and the nose box. Now he has everything locked up and the engine is stalled. But watch Johnny Unser. Well, Johnny Unser almost collected him as Jeff Wood slid back across his bows.
Jeff Wood is all right. It is not a full course yellow. That means the cars, there's Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy, can race all out except in that one area at the end of the fast straight. Turn number 3 right there. Now you're on board again with Bobby Rahal as he pursues Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi, and we now have a full course yellow. A full course yellow. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1993 Molson Indy will continue on Sports Weekend right after this. Well, at the bottom of your screen is the Gardiner Expressway. Derek Daly, those cars going, or they should be going, about 90 kilometers an hour. Just above that is the Exhibition Place race course under a full course yellow as Wood spun out at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. Right now, let's go down to Sally Larvick.
And this yellow couldn't have come at a better time. The MX team with Stefan Johansson is particularly concerned about fuel, and their chief engineer Tom Brown said that he has told Johansson right from the very start to start short shifting, so this yellow couldn't have come at a better time for you.
Yes, it's always going to help us. The MX car is running well now, but we've had a lot of problems with fuel all weekend, so this does help, but he is having the short shift.
And the fuel is still an issue with you?
It is still an issue.
Okay, so a lot of concern right here at the start of the race, Brian.
All right, Johansson is driving a Penske Chevrolet. Now that brings up an interesting scenario for the Penske teams. There is car 42, Jeff Wood from Wichita, Kansas, being removed at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. We'll talk about the fuel in just a minute. There's Johnny Unser in the background.
And Jeff Wood all by himself locks up those rear brakes. That loses control of the back of the car, kisses the concrete wall, and now luckily he slides away from the racing line and actually ends up almost in the escape road. That was why they were actually able to continue racing for a while. Look at Johnny Unser now on the top of the picture. Look, realize that Jeff Wood in fact is going to slide out of his way. They tried to wait as long as possible to see could they move that car without the full course yellow. They had no option but to eventually slow everybody down because it was too dangerous.
1 lap to green. Now, Derek, explain the full course yellow situation. These laps count in the 103 total, but there are some definite rules.
They do count in the race. Now, unlike the earlier start when Fittipaldi had to lead across the line, anybody in line here, wherever he is on the racetrack, as soon as he knows it's green, and every team manager will tell his driver through the radio, it is green. You may be 3 or 4 corners back. You better get on the gas right now and start a race, because you can very easily pull one over the guy ahead of you and make a pass.
On board with Nigel Mansell down Lakeshore Boulevard, quickly down to Ken Daniels. Kenny?
Brian's strategy begins long before this race. Paul Tracy had the pole in Cleveland. That meant the Penske team had first choice of pits, and what they did, they chose a pit with a break in it. So Paul Tracy on one side, Emerson Fittipaldi over here on the other. What it does is when Paul Tracy comes into pit, it means there will be no car coming in directly in front of him, and when he goes out, there will be no car coming in either. So he's got a clear path. So you can't always pass on the track, but sometimes strategy in the pits pays off, and the Penske team knows it. Brian?
All right, Kenny, and the Penske team very concerned about fuel as well, Derek, but let's watch the restart now. That is Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Paul Tracy under a full course yellow. The laps count. They are followed by Bobby Rahal, then Danny Sullivan. The laps count, but the cars cannot change positions. They can close up, but again, as soon as there's a green, anyone can move. Now, here we go.
You can see how early they accelerate. They don't wait for the green. Now they see it, but they're already up to racing speed.
Emerson Fittipaldi. Look at this, Danny Sullivan. Danny Sullivan barely staying ahead of Johansson. So it's Fittipaldi, Tracy, Rahal, Sullivan, and Johansson.
Watch the braking area here and watch Johansson and Sullivan. There they are side by side.
Bobby Rahal trying to go up alongside of Paul Tracy. Danny Sullivan is still fourth. Then the Amex car of Stefan Johansson. And again, the Penske cars very concerned about fuel.
Very concerned. They make about the same horsepower as the Ford engines, but the Chevrolet uses more fuel. It is not as fuel efficient in racing conditions as the Ford engine is.
Scott Goodyear currently running 11th. Paul Tracy is second in car 12. The leader is Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson Fittipaldi, the Indianapolis 500 champion and a winner 3 weeks ago in Portland, Oregon.
You mentioned Scott Goodyear. He is buried back in the pack a little bit. It is so difficult to pass people when you're so far back. He didn't qualify that well. However, he was the fastest man in the warm-up session this morning.
Paul Tracy, car 12. There is Danny Sullivan. Now watch Danny Sullivan. Behind him is Rahal on the left. Johansson on the right will try and pass under braking and does not get through.
So Rahal got himself in trouble and Sullivan passed him. Rahal was probably trying to pass Paul Tracy. Made a mistake. Sullivan pounced, took the position, and now Rahal has a headache in the name of Stefan Johansson. Here it is here. This is Rahal. This is turn 9. Oh, look at this. Sullivan sneaks down the inside, wheel to wheel. Here it is, under braking, darts down the inside, boom, takes the line, and Rahal can do nothing except let him through.
Danny Sullivan, a winner this year in Detroit. Down through the start-finish line comes the race leader, Emerson Fittipaldi. Pursued by Paul Tracy. Danny Sullivan, the blue car, now third. There is Bobby Rahal. Johansson is running in the number 5 position. Let me run down the rest of the top 10. Robbie Gordon, Al Unser Jr., Ari Luyendyk, Raul Boesel, and Scott Goodyear is now 10th.
Oh, we have a crash. Montermini. Montermini is in the wall at turn 1. Oh, we have a second one. Willie T. There's a traffic jam. Down at turn 1, there's a traffic jam.
Montermini on the left is the small Italian driver that ran so well in Detroit, Willie T. Ribbs.
Kevin Cogan and
is
Marco
involved.
Greco. Now there's nothing they can do. Willie T has stalled it, so Kevin Cogan, even if he has the engine running, cannot get out of there. You're going to have to call a first full course yellow again. Here it is here. It says Andrea Moda sponsored car. It's a 92 Lola with the Chevrolet. Montermini, the test driver for Benetton. Oh, look what happened. Something broke. The radiator on the left side of the car leaked fuel onto the rear tire, and Montermini backs it into the wall. Not a driver error, but look at the traffic jam he caused by being in the racing line. And look, Emerson stops and Tracy has to stop. The whole field is just about stopped.
Well, this is a drive-through now. Let me tell you, folks, they are going faster on the Gardner Expressway. You're now on board. There is Montermini, fourth in Detroit with his Lola Chev, 5'4", 134 pounds. And as Derek Daly mentioned, he has been a test driver since then for Benetton. So we're under a full course yellow. Stay with us. Lots more to come. You are watching the 1993 Molson Indy Live on Sports Weekend. Well, the cars have completed 11 of 103 laps. Great shot from the Spirit of Akron, the Goodyear Airship, turn number 1. The dark car at the bottom is Andrea Montermini. The red and white car at the top is Bill Cosby's car, driven by Willie T. Ribbs. That is Montermini's car. Now, Montermini from Italy, as I say, drove so brilliantly in Detroit. Let's have another look at it.
Okay, watch the left side pod. This is the braking zone for turn 1. Watch the left side pod right about now. See that? The fluid comes out of the radiator onto the rear wheel. No option, no mistake by the driver, and he backs it into the wall. That was only the beginning of the problems, because then Willie T. Ribbs arrived and the traffic jam ensued.
And right now, let's go down to Sally Larvik. Sally?
Well, Brian, you know, fatigue and sore shoulders is always a problem for these IndyCar drivers, and ever since Indianapolis, something new has been tried. These are molded, gripped steering wheels, and Ed Dillon is the one who devised this device for the drivers. And what they actually do, it's a soft plastic that the drivers put their hands around, they grip it, and they simulate how they're driving on a street course like this, and then their grip is actually embedded into the mold, and this helps them quite a bit.
There's no doubt. What the drivers are able to do is to relax their grip, and with a relaxed grip, they're better able to read the feedback through the wheel, and that's very critical for taking the car to the limit.
And we have two drivers with sore wrists, Stefan Johansson and Nigel Mansell. Has it helped them?
That's correct. Well, Nigel has yet to use it. Stefan has it. Last week in Cleveland, when he sprained his wrist, we were able to remold the left grip to compensate for that injury.
Okay, so a lot of sore shoulders left behind with this device. Back to you, Brian.
And Sally, these full course yellows, you just saw the car of Willie T. Ribbs, Bill Cosby-owned car, being towed around. Again, it was Montermini with a fluid coming out of the left pod, back-ending into the wall. Ribbs was involved. And there is Greco. He was also involved, as was Kevin Cogan. That Ribbs car, you notice something at the front there?
Yeah, the front wings, obviously they're all askew on the car now, but the fact that he's back in the car, they may be towing him back to pit lane. They can work on that car and get him back out onto the racetrack. Hopefully they can do that, because he can get some good, valuable mileage and experience under his belt. Now look at this. They got lots of sand there to clean up that fluid. Now that's going to be a little bit greasy, a little bit slippery. Oh, Willie T, what happened here? Did he fall off the hook, or is this just the start of it? You can clearly see the nose cone there, the front wings, bent sideways on that car, so he definitely has to go back to the pit lane.
Well, a full course yellow. The man that started this race is standing by with Ken Daniels. Kenny?
Yes, he did. I'm here with Rick Mears. Brian and Rick, thinking that your window originally for fuel was, I guess, anywhere from 26 to 36. Does the full course yellow change your thinking?
Well, it may move it around a little bit, but not much. It's really a plus for everybody. It just means that you're going to get better mileage during these yellows, and it'll make it easier to run a little bit harder toward the end of the race. But it shouldn't really cause any problems.
I know you said earlier this track's a little bit bumpy from Paul Tracy than what you were used to, but does it make a difference?
No, it doesn't. Again, it's the same for everybody, and if you can utilize those bumps to your advantage and if we can make the Marlboro car work a little bit better across those bumps than the other guys, then it's an advantage for us.
Rick, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Brian?
Thank you, Ken. Derek, some comments as we're on board now with Bobby Rahal.
Rick mentioned these yellow flags are a plus for everybody because of fuel consumption. A much, much bigger plus for the Chevrolet cars because every lap that's under yellow takes a little bit of an advantage away from the Ford engine cars that are more fuel efficient under racing conditions.
And you're on board with Bobby Rahal, a Lola chassis and a Chevrolet engine under full course yellow. We'll return to Toronto right after this. Captain John Moran piloting the Goodyear airship, the Spirit of Akron, floating overhead, providing our aerial view this afternoon of the 93 Molson Indy. The Goodyear blimp has been flying over major events. Various blimps have for more than 60 years. Well, the starter has given the one-finger sign. We will be racing again very shortly in Toronto. Willie T. Ribbs is in the pits, but Ribbs never a factor in this race and certainly less of a factor now.
And wasn't the cause of that incident. Came around the road, was blocked, jumped on the brakes, got it sideways, and unfortunately got tangled up in it. But Willie T. Ribbs, this car, of course, backed by Bill Cosby, his mentor at the moment, puts a lot of these commercial deals together for Willie T. to continue his racing deal. And it is another 2 years on his contract with Service Merchandise and Bill Cosby.
Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Johansson, Robbie Gordon, Al Unser Jr., Harry Lyondike, Raul Boisel. Third start within 15 laps. Remember, as soon as they get green, they'll go for it. It doesn't matter their position. Now, the green flag. We are racing again in Toronto. Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Johansson, and young Robbie Gordon driving for A.J. Foyt.
The great thing about this street circuit here in Toronto, you have lots of room to stretch your legs on this long back straight here. Then you get very, oh, look at Tracy.
Paul Tracy has taken the lead. Paul Tracy under braking at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. The West Hill, Ontario native has moved into the lead ahead of his veteran teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy now the leader. There is Tracy, followed by Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal is fourth. Danny Sullivan is running third.
Look what Tracy's doing now. He's absolutely running away from Fittipaldi. The emotion of the moment when you take the lead of the biggest race in Canada in front of your home crowd. We can hear the crowd screaming from here.
We are located at the start-finish area. There is Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson Fittipaldi comes through second. The crowd here in the start-finish area absolutely erupting as Paul Tracy went through in the lead. You can't even see Tracy now. He is that far ahead.
A picture-perfect move by Paul Tracy, the way he went down the inside and left Emerson. No, oh, look at this. He locks up the left front. He is absolutely on the limit in this Penske.
Paul Tracy goes through, followed by Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, and Stefan Johansson. On board with Bobby Rahal as he pursues Danny Sullivan, who's third. Just in front of Sullivan is Emerson Fittipaldi, now running second. Let's see if we can see Paul Tracy. He is way out of the picture. There is Paul Tracy. Tracy now widening his lead.
This is how it happened. 180 miles an hour, and Tracy ducks out from under Fittipaldi's rear wing. Now the game starts. Look at the cars bounce and bounce in that braking zone. Look at Paul Tracy's bounce. But he gets down the inside, and now Emerson cannot turn his car in. He has to let Paul Tracy through. He leads the race.
As we look at Paul Tracy, he made an interesting comment earlier this week, and you can relate to this as a driver, Derek Daly. They said, are you looking forward to the race? There's Fittipaldi, followed by Sullivan, Rahal, Johansson, Robbie Gordon, and Al Jr., and Gordon and Jr. go side by side. You're on board with Al Unser Jr. Gordon moves ahead of him.
Look at this, wheel to wheel, and Al Jr. makes it. I can't believe the cars didn't touch. Al Jr. went all the way. What a great move by Al Jr. and what a mature drive by Robbie Gordon.
Oh my, what a move by Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. won here in 1988 and again in 1990. A two-time winner in Toronto. He is yet to win in 1993. Al Unser Jr. and his teammate Danny Sullivan have had a bitter feud going all season.
Al Jr. is so good in racing trim with these cars, and he never gave up, even though Robbie Gordon still tried to take away that inside line. Now watch this. Gordon moved to the inside. Al Jr. has to go down the outside. This is almost impossible to pull off. Now he's got nowhere to go. Emerson let Tracy go, remember. Al Jr. said, no, I'm going to go with you. Watch the wheels here. Absolutely side by side. And now he's on the inside for turn 4. And he pulls it off. What a tremendous move by Alonso Jr.
As we go back to Paul Tracy, I was saying, someone asked Tracy if he was looking forward to the race. He said, look, with all the pressure I have been under this week, I'm looking forward to Sunday afternoon at 2 Eastern when I can climb in this car and finally relax.
And get away from everybody, get away from the distractions and get to his office and do his job. But look at the lead he is pulling out now over the world champion twice and the IndyCar champion, the Indy 500 champion. In fact, all the Indy 500 champions are right behind him. Sullivan, Rahal, and Emerson.
An interesting question. Is it Tracy or the car that is making the difference as we're on board with Danny Sullivan?
Well, Tracy is one of the finest and most spectacular drivers ever to step into IndyCar racing. He has electrified everybody this year. Now, he's had a difficult learning period. He's knocked a couple of wheels and a couple of wings off this car. But Roger Penske knows how good Paul Tracy is. That's why in 1990, he put him on an unprecedented 5-year contract.
Danny Sullivan. Danny Sullivan was a pole sitter here in 1990 as well as 1988. And Danny Sullivan is all over Emerson Fittipaldi. There's Fittipaldi second. Sullivan is third. Bobby Rahal running fourth, followed by Johansson, Alonso Jr., Robbie Gordon, Lyondike, Boiselle, and Scott Goodyear is still running 10th.
That's turn 1 where it all happened. This is the blast up through the gearbox, all the way from 2nd up to 6th. They use 6 forward gears. By the time you grab 6th, you'll go all the way to almost 190 miles an hour and then stand on the brakes for the slowest corner on the racetrack. Right here, 2nd gear, sometimes 1st, at a 35 miles an hour. Oh, look at Al Jr. Look at Al Jr. beginning to catch up on this pack here. He's going to put the cat among the pigeons in about 2 laps.
Ross Bentley from Coquitlam, British Columbia, the 3rd Canadian, is running 22nd. Danny Sullivan was a winner this year in Detroit. Outstanding racing and lots more to come. Stay with us. We'll return with live coverage of the Molson Indy in Toronto right after this. With Derek Daly, Ken Daniels, and Sally Larvick, I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back to Toronto. That is Bobby Rahal. Rahal is running 4th. The race leader is Paul Tracy from West Hill, Ontario. There is Rahal 4th. Johansson is 5th. Al Unser Jr. is running 6th. Robbie Gordon is 7th. Lyondike is 8th.
Well, he was 8th.
He was just passed. Lyondike appears to be having car problems.
And there's Mansell and Mario running, believe it or not, 12th and 13th. Now they've moved up 1 position because of Lyondike's problems. But Mansell and Mario having a terrible race.
Car 5 is Nigel Mansell. You're on board with Mansell as Mansell is pursuing Teo Fabi. Nigel Mansell has won 4 pole positions so far this year. Started way back in the number 9 position here this afternoon. The defending Formula One world champion, and he's had a couple of spectacular wrecks here this week.
Hit too many things for his liking. His wrist is already sore from a fall that he had in Cleveland last week. And it just shows you how temperamental these racing cars can be. The world champion cannot make this Lola with the Ford engine go fast enough to even run in the top 3 in this race. A very frustrating day for Mansell and Mario.
Mansell is 11th, Mario is 12th. Ari Lyondike is in the pits as we suspected something wrong with the car, possibly tires.
Yeah, he backed off a lot, so I mean, so many people passing so quickly. I'm sure there must have been something else wrong, but obviously when he makes the pit stop, takes full advantage, sticks new tires on it and fills up the fuel tank.
Lyondike is now running 22nd. Ross Bentley, as Lyondike comes back out, Ross Bentley is now up to position 21. The race leader is Paul Tracy. Let's run down the top 10 very quickly for you. Paul Tracy, Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Johansson, Al Unser Jr., Robbie Gordon, Boycell, Scott Goodyear is 9th, and Teo Bobby is 10th.
And Tracy's already in lap traffic, already putting laps on some of the slower cars. Here's Emerson, there's Sullivan, still right behind Emerson. So not only does he have to try and catch Tracy, he's got to be real careful that he doesn't make a mistake and let Sullivan pass him. That's Willie T. Ribbs right ahead of him.
Emerson Fittipaldi runs second for Roger Penske, followed by Danny Sullivan running third. They are both well behind the race leader, the number 12 Penske Chevrolet, driven by Paul Tracy from West Hill, Ontario.
Rick Mears said earlier that the window for the first pit stop is anywhere between lap 20 and lap 30. They're now 24 laps, 25 laps into the race. So between the next 5 to 10 laps, we will see a flurry of pit stops.
On board with Danny Sullivan, the third place car onto Lakeshore Boulevard. Now up to 190 miles an hour. They go past Willie T. Ribbs, who is more than a lap down. Car 4 is Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi second. Unser in car, Sullivan is third in car 7. And Bobby Rahal just going around the corner is fourth. Willie T. Ribbs there, car 75, more than a lap down.
And you can see Al Unser Jr. now only about 2 car lengths behind Stefan Johansson. Johansson, I thought he would go a little bit faster. He's in the same Penske as Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi, but he was one of the drivers. Earlier we heard Tom Brown say he told him short shift, not use too much fuel.
Cars 2 through 6 bunched together very quickly. There's Scott Pruitt into the pits.
That is definitely terminal smoke when you get that much out of the back of the car. Probably one of the best prepared cars on the grid here. It's a 1991 Lola, but Lyondike about to go a lap down.
Paul Tracy about to lap Ari Lyondike. Tracy in car 12 at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard puts Lyondike a lap down. Lyondike is running in 21st place.
And he has to be careful going past traffic. He can trip over somebody so easily between these concrete walls. You have to allow a margin of error for other people's errors. And of course, as he does that, Emerson will gobble up whatever advantage he may have built. Now he's about to pass the other Canadian, Ross Bentley.
You are watching live coverage of the 1993 Molson Indy Toronto on Sports Weekend. About to complete 28 of 103 laps on board with Danny Sullivan as he pursues Emerson Fittipaldi. Sullivan is third, Fittipaldi is second. The race leader is Paul Tracy. Now let's stay with his shot. See the numbers on his steering wheel, 36.6. Derek Daly, please explain.
Well, that means it's his fuel number, 36.6 gallons. As he uses the fuel, the little digital readout on his dashboard keeps counting up as the gallons go down. And if the digital readout, look how close he is to Emerson, but if that digital readout is above 36.6, he has to go straight to the pit lane. He does not have enough fuel to make another full lap.
Danny Sullivan involved in a bitter feud with his teammate Al Unser Jr. Word is they patched things up, but I heard differently this morning. Here's the race leader, Paul Tracy, as he's behind Hiro Mashusta. Tracy about to lap Mashusta, who is running 19th. So it gives you an idea just how spectacular Tracy has been here this afternoon so far.
That's right, and sometimes it is scary. Tracy catches back markers just so fast, and he's not a driver that patiently waits to see what happens. He just absolutely darts for the hole and hopes that the man he's lapping sees him and knows where he is. But I mean, that's one of the reasons why he is so exciting to watch.
Now you brought up a very strong and a very good point. Car 4 is Fittipaldi. He is second. Danny Sullivan is third. That is Mashusta in between them. You talked about patience. Patience is something the fans did not see from Paul Tracy until 1 week ago today in Cleveland, when he was prepared to sit back and wait for his opportunity.
Well, in fact, I discussed that with Rick Mears. He actually thought it was even a race earlier. Detroit is where he thought he sat back. Look at this race here. We have such a line. 3, 4, 5, 6, all in a line here. A blanket could cover everybody. But Rick, oh, look at this outside Mashusta by Rahal. Rick Mears thought it was Detroit. that suddenly Paul Tracy learned to be a bit patient, let the race come to him, don't try and force the issue all the time. And he thinks that was a major step in maturity for Tracy, because when he stays on the road, there is nobody faster.
And speaking of speed, and 190 miles an hour on board with Bobby Rahal down Lakeshore Boulevard, Exhibition Stadium to your right. There's Danny Sullivan, followed by Rahal, Johansson, Unser Jr., and Robbie Gordon. Now up the third base side of Exhibition Stadium, a left-hand turn, now a right-hand turn, and then we'll see where Mansell lost it yesterday, right about here.
Right there, hit the tires on the outside, hit the concrete wall, destroyed his race car. Now he's in his backup car. But this is a great race here. Sullivan chasing Emerson. He's all over the back of Emerson. Rahal sits back and watches the action happen, watches it all unfold, hopes they take each other out, makes it easier for him. And of course then you have Johansson right behind him in another Penske, ready to pounce. And Al Jr. has a grandstand view of everything going on ahead, just 10 feet ahead of him.
Car 3 is Al Unser Jr. Rahal, Johansson, there's Al Unser Jr. Ari Leyendyk about to be lapped by car 7. That is Danny Sullivan. You're on board with Sullivan running third as he goes by Leyendyk. Leyendyk is in 19th place. Whoa, very close in turn 3.
Whoa, you can see, of course, Leyendyk can't jump over the fence. He has to try and just stay out of the way, but go on with his own race. But he needs to move over as subtly as possible to let these leaders get on with their battle. Now, Rahal needs to get by Leyendyk as quickly as possible. Oh, this is great stuff here. This is great stuff, and it's hard to believe we don't have, oh, look at this, down the inside, we don't have a Newman-Haas car in this fight. When's the last time you saw the Newman-Haas cars so far down on in the race?
Speaking of Newman-Haas, car 18 is Jimmy Vasser in the Codilux car. He spins at turn 3. It will be a local yellow. Speaking of Newman-Haas, Nigel Mansell is running 11th. Mario Andretti 12th. Here's Jimmy Vasser.
He did the same thing as Jeff Wood. You can see the black streaks as he locks up those rear tires. Spins it. He's in a Ford engine car this week. The first time since Indianapolis. Hopes to finish out the season with this Ford engine. But he is about to lose at least one lap with that very costly spin. Look at the lead Sullivan has now, because Leyendyk held up the rest of the field.
Emerson Fittipaldi runs second through 32 laps. Fuel is a problem for Penske and Chevrolet. About 3 or 4 laps. They were planning around lap 36. It'll be interesting to see how the full course yellows have affected that. The leader is Paul Tracy. Tracy now with a wide lead. Tracy's lead, as he expands it now, is about 8 seconds over Emerson Fittipaldi. Car 12 is Paul Tracy.
You have to control your emotions in a situation like this. You're totally dominating your hometown race. Everybody's here, your friends, your family, Roger Penske, your boss, your teammates. Everybody has their eyes on you. It's such a lot for some of these young drivers to carry on their shoulders. But Tracy is in control. You just got to take it easy and don't step over that line.
Well, as Roger Penske once said, into the pits comes Mario Andretti running in 12th place. As Penske once said about Paul Tracy, you can teach a driver to slow down. It's awfully tough to teach aggressiveness and teach him to speed up.
That's right. There's nothing like that aggression and that bravery, that raw talent, even if it is untamed. Owners like to get a kick out of trying to tame drivers like a Paul Tracy. Racetracks were not wide enough for him 2 years ago when he started, because he spent more time off the track than on the track. But now he's beginning to stay on the black bit, and the wins are coming. He's not trying to force the issue. The wins are coming.
Fittipaldi has moved up on Tracy. Excuse me, Derek. There is Danny Sullivan and Bobby Rahal. He has closed up a bit. No problem for Tracy. Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti.
Mario moves aside, lets Junior go by because he's just on fresh tires. They're cold. Johnny Unser moves slowly to let them through the hairpin. But Al Jr. now, I would say if we saw Mario in that soon, we are about to have a flurry of pit stops within the next 4 to 5 laps.
Paul Tracy is the leader, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, and Johansson is in the pits now. Johansson was running right near the top. He will drop down as he comes in for fuel. and there appears to be a problem with his car. They're taking the Johansson Penske Chevrolet apart. He could be through for the day.
Al Jr. now gains a position because of Johansson's long stop. Sometimes you can't make the pass on the racetrack. We said that earlier on. Then you try and make it in the pits. Al Jr. is closing up on his teammate of last year, Bobby Rahal.
Paul Tracy, the leader, followed by Fittipaldi. Sullivan, there's Rahal. He's 4th. Unser Jr. is 5th. Robbie Gordon is 6th. Followed by Raul Boisel, Teo Fabi. Scott Goodyear remains 9th. Mansell is now 10th. Gachot is up to position 11. Guerrero is 12th. Till is 13th. Johansson has dropped way down to 14th. He will drop even further. He is still in the pits. Johansson could be out of this race. Bobby Rahal pursued by Al Unser Jr.
Rahal, after his disaster in Indianapolis, took the Rahal-Hogan chassis, threw it in the skip, went out and bought 2 new Lolas, and has only had 1 test session with this car to try and make it competitive, and to the surprise, I think, even of himself and everybody else, qualified in 3rd place. He is having his best race of the season so far.
As we stay on board with Bobby Rahal, he comes in here 40 points down, but he said, look, I came here a year ago leading by 38, and I won by only 4 at the end of the season. He still believes he has a chance at the overall title. Now, Al Unser Jr., no sir, will not get by Rahal in turn 3.
Oh, Al Jr. is so dangerous down in that braking zone when he makes a move and he tries to grab. Oh, here he goes again. He's sideways, almost under braking. Al Jr. has the red mist in front of his eyes for Rahal. This is great stuff. This is what street racing is all about. Keeps everybody bunched closely together. Lots of braking zones. Here's another one, 2nd gear corner, quick blast. They stay in 2nd gear. Now they go down through this front straight. Where's Ray? Oh, Rahal's in the pits.
Rahal, running 4th, comes into the pits. They've completed now 37 laps, and the Penske cars have yet to come in, so they definitely benefited from the full course yellow. Bobby Rahal is in.
See, he takes a drink. Hard work out there in this type of temperature, so Rahal takes advantage of a nice cool drink when everybody goes to work, gets them out of there as quickly as possible. It takes longer to put fuel in than it does to put tires on. 13.2 seconds, a very good first stop for Rahal.
Now Bobby Rahal drops down to 5th place. There's the race leader, Paul Tracy. That's Kevin Cogan. Kevin Cogan running well back. He is 20th. Emerson Fittipaldi is slowing down.
Oh, he went so wide, almost clipped the tires on that run. Now, is he out of fuel? No, he just went wide, very wide, got very slow, and has now given Paul Tracy another couple of seconds of breathing space. Actually, he had closed up on Paul Tracy. That there give Paul Tracy a break, because look how far ahead he is now. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much of a mistake to suddenly draw away from somebody or to catch somebody.
Car 7 is Danny Sullivan. Now, Danny Sullivan has gone ahead of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi there dropping down to 3rd place. Danny Sullivan has passed Emerson Fittipaldi.
We see it on the scoring monitor. Yes, he is. He's in 2nd place. Now, Fittipaldi, maybe he's in trouble, but if he's in trouble, surely he would have gone to the pit lane before now, certainly on that last lap. Look at Tracy about to lap Robbie Gordon. And Robbie Gordon, we thought, he certainly had a good start, but he's now way back in 13th position.
Into the pits comes race leader Paul Tracy. Ken Daniels, it's all yours.
Paul Tracy on his way in, and really this is just going to be for a splash of fuel. So far things have been going well, and of course the tire changes. Tracy was in, and this Penske team goes to work. He'll take on full fuel, and we've seen it so often this year. This Penske chassis, it works almost as well on full fuel as low fuel. 4 new tires. Other than that, nothing adjusted. Still the fuel going into this car, and just that quickly, Paul Tracy has a little bit of problem getting it in gear, and now he's away. Let's go back up to Brian.
And a speed limit in the pits.
80 miles an hour. You had to be very careful. That was a long stop for Paul Tracy. And look at Danny Sullivan now, how close he is to Tracy.
Let me run down the top 5. It's now Fittipaldi, followed by Sullivan. Fittipaldi has gone ahead of Sullivan to take the race lead. Paul Tracy, Teo Fabi, Al Unser Jr. is 5th.
It's going to take about 4 or 5 laps to sort everything out after these pit stops. Surely Emerson has to go to the pits very soon. But one of the Pennzoil car, Fabi's in the wall.
Teo Fabi was running well. He was 4th. He is into the wall. The race leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, will come in for fuel. And let's again go down to Ken Daniels. Ken?
Well, Emil ran a little bit wide when he got a little bit loose. We'll see if they adjust anything on the rear end, and they're not. It's just basically, again, like Paul Tracy, a change of tires and fuel. But will they get away quicker than Tracy does? We'll see. Car is down. It's off and away.
Now we'll see where Tracy is when he comes out. Where is Tracy? Where is Sullivan? Tracy's behind him. Emerson's leading.
Emerson Fittipaldi has managed car 4 to maintain the lead. Now, car 12 is Tracy running 2nd.
Well, the race starts all over again. Paul Tracy lost about 2 seconds by stalling the car, almost stalling and leaving the pit lane. That's what cost him his lead.
That is car 90, Bertrand Gachot, running in between Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy.
Come on, Bertrand, get out of the way.
Tracy
get out of the way.
Let
Let Tracy get up behind Emerson. We need Gachot out of the way.
Emerson Fittipaldi is car 4. In between is Gachot, and there's Paul Tracy. Derek.
He's through. He's by Gachot, and now the race starts all over again.
The drivers, are they under orders to let a faster car by, or is it simply courtesy?
You're not under orders. It's a professional courtesy. Some people do it properly. Some people are very, very difficult about it.
Race leader Emerson Fittipaldi. 2nd is Paul Tracy. Stay with us. You're on board now with Bobby Rahal. He is running 5th. Back in Toronto, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, followed by Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. Rahal is 5th, and Scott Goodyear is now running 6th. Just a reminder, following the Molson Indy Toronto will take you out to southern Alberta. The Cowboy, Ernie Affiganis, Bob Tallman, and Ron McLean standing by with coverage of the Calgary Stampede. Danny Sullivan is 3rd. Car 3 is Al Unser Jr. running 4th. Scott Goodyear has moved up to 6th, and you are now on board with Al Unser Jr.
Well, this looks like the best race of the year. The 2 Penske's are right there, and the 2 Gallus cars are right there, all in a line down this front straight here. Look at this, round each side they go of Jimmy Vasser.
Down Lakeshore Boulevard with Al Unser Jr. as he chases Danny Sullivan. Al Unser Jr. is running 4th. Sullivan is 3rd. There's Sullivan 3rd. Race leader Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy is 2nd.
This is a great run here. There's been so much friction between Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. The cars have been like magnets over the last 3 or 4 races, attracted to each other, however violently it is sometimes. They put each other out of races. There is friction. They don't talk to each other that much, but when they're on the racetrack, it's every man for himself.
Now 44 of 103 laps complete. Danny Sullivan is 3rd, car number 7. It's Fittipaldi, followed by Tracy, Sullivan, Unser, Rahal. Goodyear is 6th, Gordon is 7th, Mansell is 8th, Boisel is 9th, and Guerrero is now 10th. Paul Tracy, and now Danny Sullivan and Al Unser Jr. all over Paul Tracy, and those are the cars that are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Now we can see outside our commentary box window here, the Scott Goodyear's crew are just about set up for him to make another pit stop. So maybe he hasn't actually made a pit stop yet.
Well, Goodyear was in once already, may not have been for fuel, and that is Ari Leyendijk, followed by Bertrand Gachot. So Leyendijk, who was 2nd in the Indy 500, appears to be out of this race. And speaking of being out of the race, let's go down to Sally Larkin.
And as you can imagine, a very disappointed Stefan Johansson, as in fact he's got his foot up on pit wall and he's watching the rest of the race. Stefan, do you know what happened?
Well, we're not sure. There's something went wrong in the engine, but we're not quite sure what it is. So I hit the bump at the end of the straight, and the engine just cut out completely. So it just ran on one or two cylinders back into the pit.
How bumpy is that track out there?
Well, it's bumpy, but I mean, that shouldn't happen anyway. I don't know what went wrong. But...
Okay, thank you very much, Stefan Johansson. Obviously very disappointed. Brian?
Thank you, Sally. The race leader is Emerson Fittipaldi, car number 4, trying to win for the 3rd time this year.
Full course yellow again for Lyondike. We saw the pictures from the back of the car. There was something dragging on the ground from that racing car there. So Lyondike is a dead duck in the water right now, and they have to send a tow truck out to get him back.
The 3rd full course yellow of the afternoon. We are just about halfway through the race. They have run 46 of 103 laps. And pictures provided today by the Goodyear blimp, the Spirit of Akron, up from Akron, Ohio. There is the blimp piloted by Captain John Moran. It's been on assignment for Goodyear Canada since last Wednesday. Worked in our telecast of the Blue Jays and the Kansas City Royals on Friday night. And it will head back to Northern Ohio tomorrow morning. We're under a full course yellow, just about halfway through this Molson Indy 1993. There's the reason. Ari Lyondike's car, Lyondike, driving a Lola Ford for Chip Ganassi, was 2nd in the Indy 500 under a full course yellow. Let me run down this race for you. Emerson Fittipaldi is the leader, followed by Paul Tracy. Danny Sullivan is 3rd. Al Unser Jr. is 4th. Bobby Rahal running 5th. In the number 6 position is Scott Goodyear from Willowdale, Ontario. Robbie Gordon driving for AJ Foyt is 7th. Raul Boisel is 8th. Nigel Mansell is 9th. Ari Lyondike appears to be through for the day. Mansell is 9th. Guerrero is 10th. Mario Andretti 11th. Gasho is 12th. Till is 13th. Jimmy Vasser is 14th. Kevin Cogan 15th. Teo Fabi is 16th. Lyondike was running 17th. He drops down now. Ross Bentley from Coquitlam, British Columbia, appears to be having some problems. Ross was listed as running 24th, but I don't see Ross. We'll try and pick him up here. Car 8 is Teo Fabi, followed by Raul Boisel. And after Boisel,
lots of cars. You can see Scott Goodyear there running in a very good 6th place. Had an excellent pit stop. Look at Mansell way down the order. Look at Mario even further down. That was Marco Greco who just made a pit stop. He was right behind Mario.
I was saying, and then comes Nigel Mansell. Gives you an idea how many cars are standing between some of the leaders. Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. There is Bobby Rahal. He is a factor in this race.
That's the finger. One more lap to go. You can see the pace car driver puts his hand out, gives one finger, so as the driver behind him sees it immediately. And then, of course, the starter stand also waves that one finger.
With 1 lap to go under a full course yellow, Sally Larvik.
And I am with Chip Ganassi, and right now it looks like they have shut off the engine. They know that it was an electrical problem, fuel related, but they weren't exactly sure what the situation is. And right now Chip is conversing, and we'll see if we can get a word with him. Chip, do you have any idea what the problem was? I understand it just stopped out there for him.
It just stopped out there. Apparently we don't have any fuel pressure for some reason.
Is his day over?
I don't know yet. I hope not.
Okay, they're still working on the car with hopes. Let's go with Ken Daniels.
Thank you very much, Sally. I'm here with Jan Zidek, who is the suspension specialist of Scott Goodyear's team. I know you guys did a lot of work last night to try and get this car set up today, and it's running well.
Yeah, well, you want the car to go over the bump as smoothly as possible and keep the tires on the pavement as best as you can, providing good traction and cornering abilities.
Well, ever since Laguna Seca, when they did some testing so far, at least today, it's proving well. Best in practice this morning and running a 6 this afternoon. That's got the story from Goodyear's pit. Let's go back up to Brian.
And Ken, as the cars come around to complete the 49th lap, we will look for the green flag. Scott Goodyear, car 2, is running 6th. Nigel Mansell, if you're just joining us, is running 9th. The leaders are Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, and Al Unser Jr. Now again, car 4 is Fittipaldi. 12 is Tracy. 7 is Danny Sullivan. 3, Al Unser Jr. As soon as the green goes, they're racing. The leader does not have to go across first.
Here we go. Emerson got it sideways. Tracy has a good run.
Turn number 1, although he got it sideways, Fittipaldi maintains the lead. Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., and Bobby Rahal.
This is where he did it the last time. Let's have a look. Oh, Emerson knew what was going to happen, so he moved to the middle of the road and made sure that Paul Tracy had to take the long way around if he was going to try and make a move, which he didn't do.
Great racing here. The 4 cars, the top 4 cars, bang, bang, bang. Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Danny Sullivan, and Al Unser Jr.
Well, this is by far one of the best street races of the year, one of the best races, period, of the year. Inside with Sullivan, that's Tracy right ahead of him. Look at Sullivan fight the wheel, particularly through this left-hander. Watch the steering. Boom. The way the steering gets yanked out of his hand as he goes over those bumps. You have to fight these cars all the time to try and keep them on the ideal racing line.
Racers have now completed 50 of 103 laps.
There's Rahal. There's 2 cars between Rahal and Scott Goodyear, who are running 5th and 6th respectively. Fittipaldi,
Tracy, Sullivan, and Al Unser Jr. through turn 3. Car 4 is Fittipaldi. Roger Penske's cars, both double winners this year, running 1st and 2nd, followed by Danny Sullivan, who won in Detroit, and Al Unser Jr., who has yet to win in 1993.
And for those who thought that these Penske Chevrolets would run away with the race because they've been so dominant in racing conditions almost every time they were out this year, that is not right. There's Scott Goodyear still chasing Bobby Rahal, but the Penske cars have not run away, and it has given us just a tremendous race. Goodyear is in.
Scott Goodyear running 6th behind Fittipaldi, Tracy, Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., and Bobby Rahal is in. He is now dropped down to 7th. He's been passed by Gordon. He's now 8th, passed by Boycell.
Well, I don't know what caused that. Look at Sullivan trying to fend off Al Unser Jr., but that was an unfortunate call for Scott Goodyear that he had to make that pit stop because he drops him out of the top 10.
Scott Goodyear drops back after running 6th. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1993 Molson Indy continues after this. On board with a 4th place car of Al Unser Jr. That's Danny Sullivan running in front of him. The leader is Fittipaldi. He is car 4. Tracy is running 2nd, car 12. Look at this, the top 4, one after another. Fittipaldi, Tracy, Sullivan, and Unser Jr. through the start-finish area.
4 Chevrolet engines dominate the proceedings here. 2 team cars, 2 from Penske and 2 from Gallus Racing. This is a great fight here. And Rahal is not too far behind them in 5th.
Drivers have now completed 53 of 103 laps. Fittipaldi on the brakes going through turn 3. More than halfway through the race. Ken Daniels, bring us up to date on Scott Goodyear.
Scott Goodyear, Brian, out of the top 10. He had to make an extra stop. But Derek Walker, what happened?
Well, Scott felt they had a rear tire going down, so we didn't want to take any chances. So we came in and took it out, you know. So.
But earlier he told you there was a problem, then didn't think there was.
Well, he suspected something was going wrong with it, and then he felt it was okay, so we took a chance and tried it there when it went green, but it didn't feel good, so we changed it.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Let's go back up to Brian.
There is Nigel Mansell, Ken, car 5. The defending Formula 1 champion is running 8th.
Running slowly, too. He moved aside on the horseshoe corner that gave him all the trouble in practice. He must be heading for the pit lane also because he is running way, way off the pace.
The leader, car 4, is Fittipaldi, followed by Tracy, Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr. down Lakeshore Boulevard. There is Nigel Mansell. Mansell, who spent a good part of the morning watching his good friend Greg Norman win the British Open here on CBC. He actually spent the time, as you pointed out, in his mobile home watching television instead of coming out to have lunch. Nigel Mansell, who had 4 pole positions prior to Toronto, started 9th and is now running back, way back in the number 10 position, just ahead of Scott Goodyear. Goodyear is 11th. There's Goodyear just coming into view.
I don't know what Mansell's doing because he is way, way off the pace. If you're that slow, he's either cooling everything down to try and get the engine back to working temperature, or else he may need to go to the pit lane, but he is way off the pace. And this is the pace right here, and it is hot and frantic. Look at that great speed shot. That's about 3rd gear that they go by the camera at about 120 miles an hour, up through the gearbox, up to 6th gear, 190 miles an hour before they absolutely stand up in the seat to try and stop the cars.
Well, we see Danny Sullivan running 3rd, Al Unser Jr. running 4th. They're on the same team. Let's go down to Sally Larvick. Sally?
And it's been a long time since we've seen Rick Gallis this relaxed with both of his cars running up so high in this race. Rick, you had some problems on Friday. The cars were not working well at all, and then you had a meeting on Saturday, and the result is this. What did you do?
Well, actually, we just came to this. We came to this race with the idea that we were going to just work towards Saturday's qualifying, do a lot of talking back and forth between the teams, and try to use the 2-car concept. So.
And we know that there has been some discussion between Danny and Alan for a time. They weren't talking, and last week you told me at Cleveland it's not good for the team. Is everything worked out now between them?
Yeah, it is. The guys had a good talk. This is a good race team, and it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of spirit and a little fighting back and forth. That just makes it stronger. I think that it's just the personality of the team, and I don't mind it at all.
Okay, and if the results are what's happening today, then he certainly doesn't mind it at all. Back to you, Brian.
All right, the big story developing while you were talking to Rick Gallis is Nigel Mansell. Mansell with steam coming out of the car. Major troubles there for Newman Haas.
Looked like it was overheating. That's why we saw him do that slow lap, trying to bring the temperature down. It didn't work, and he was forced into the pits, and you see the steam. Now he is on 14th. Very soon he'll be much, much further back as he sits and discusses things with his crew in the pit lane.
It appears that Mansell could be through for the day. Mansell with spectacular wrecks here on Friday and Saturday. That's it. The steering wheel is off. Nigel Mansell is out of the race. The race leader, car 4, is Emerson Fittipaldi. So it's Fittipaldi, Tracy, Danny Sullivan 3rd, Al Unser Jr. 4th, Ray Hall 5th, Robbie Gordon 6th, Boycell 7th, Mario Andretti is 8th, Mansell's teammate. Mansell's through for the day. Guerrero is 9th, and Scott Goodyear is 10th. Down Lakeshore Boulevard, the top 4. And look at that, the top 5. There's Al Unser Jr. And just coming through was Bobby Rahal. Oh, what a race.
We will have 5 cars covered by such a short span of racetrack in about another 2 laps, because you can just see Rahal beginning to tag on to the back of this group and catching Al Unser Jr. This is the race of the year so far.
You are watching live coverage of the 1993 Molson Indy Toronto. You're on board with Scott Goodyear.
And Nigel Mansell, as he stands watching the cars on the track. And Nigel, it hasn't been a good weekend for you. You tried desperately. You thought you might make some headway on the track, but it wasn't to be.
Fine. We had a problem from the word go with the boost, and what's happened is the right-hand wastegate on the turbo, the whole back end has blown off. And, you know, you can see that it caught fire when I came in the pits as well. But we're down to about 30 inches of boost for about the last 15, 20 laps. And, you know, there's no way to go racing.
For a while there, it looked like you were picking up speed. You were racing with your teammate Mario Andretti. You came pretty close a couple of times.
Yeah.
No comment with that at all. How's your wrist feeling? We know that you had a problem that was visibly swollen today.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little problem, but I mean, the main problem was with the car, and as you just saw with you know, a bit of the engine department. But I mean, that's motor racing. It's the first race that the cars let me down, so I've got no complaints.
And this was a particularly rough track for you, wasn't it, to learn?
Yeah, but it would be nice to pick up some valuable points. But I mean, in one word, that's motor racing.
Okay, thank you very much, Nigel. He'll be watching the rest of this race as a spectator, Brian.
Sally, we're on board now with Bobby Rahal, who is 5th as he chases Al Unser Jr., who's 4th. And you made a comment to me, Derek Daly, as the cars come down Lakeshore Boulevard, that it's too bad Mansell wasn't mixed in with the top 5.
Mixed in with this group right here. Look how close Rahal is now to Al Unser Jr. This is about to become a 5-car train. But you're right, I'd love to see Mansell right in the middle of this because he is so exciting to watch, particularly on street races. But this will now blow the championship wide open because Mansell has led it right from Australia at the start of the season. And Emerson, whether he finishes first or second, will be right up there on the head of the field with Mansell.
Let's stay on board with Bobby Rahal if you're just joining us. Coming up, the fastest corner in Indy road racing.
Here it is. Turn 11, you can still hear he's not flat. This is turn 1 and the blast of the drag race. Listen to his downshifts. 1, 2, 3, bang, 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 down through the gearbox, down to second gear. That's Al Jr. Notice, oh, he missed a gear on the upshift. Al Jr. just creeps away under acceleration. Here's the horseshoe. Great street racing facility here.
Emerson Fittipaldi, car for the leader. Running down the top 10 now through 61 of 103 laps. There's Fittipaldi. The second place car right there is Paul Tracy. Danny Sullivan is third, followed by Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, Robbie Gordon, Raul Boisel, Mario Andretti. Guerrero is ninth, and Scott Goodyear is running 10th. Car 3, Al Unser Jr. is fourth. Al Unser Jr., watch out for Al Unser Jr., followed by Bobby Rahal, who is fifth. Al Unser Jr., a 2-time winner here in Toronto. Stay with us. Live coverage of the Molson Indy will continue on Sports Weekend right after this. As we come back to Toronto, you're on board with Al Unser Jr. running fourth behind Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Danny Sullivan. Derek Daly, you've driven these cars, you've driven F1. Take us around with Al Unser Jr.
The great thing about riding with Al Jr., he's right in the middle of this dogfight for position here. Watch how he fights the wheel also. Watch how his head bounces around. Those old neck muscles really get strained through here. This is turn 11. Bang! Look at the steering wheel getting almost pulled out of his hand. This is down change. This is third gear. The fourth. Fifth. Five-speed gearbox he uses. Fight the wheel. Even in the slow-speed stuff, he fights the wheel. Very bumpy through here. In-car cameras just bring the people at home so much into the race car. You can almost feel what goes on. But I'll tell you what, Al Jr. will be watching in his mirrors now because Rahal, with the advantage of only 1 day's testing in this new Lola, is now closer to Al Jr. than he's been in the last 3 or 4 laps.
You're able to get shots of the crowds here, record crowds. Through the start-finish line comes Al Unser Jr. running fourth, followed by Bobby Rahal, Robbie Gordon, Raul Boisel, Mario Andretti, Guerrero ninth, and Goodyear is 10th. A crowd of just under 67,000, a new single-day Sunday record, due in large part to Paul Tracy. Car 3 is Al Unser, followed by Bobby Rahal. Paul Tracy is running second. Emerson Fittipaldi, the race leader. Tremendous excitement here. Sid Priddle, who does such a great job running the media center, said about a week ago at this time, Derek, midway through, there's Fittipaldi. Car 4, car 12 will be Paul Tracy. That's Scott Brayton, about to be lapped by the race leader, Emerson Fittipaldi. There, behind in the distance, is Paul Tracy. Sid Priddle said about this time last Sunday, the phone started to ring. People were watching Cleveland. They were realizing Tracy would come in here with a victory, and ticket sales went absolutely crazy.
And I'm not surprised, and it's great to see so many people come out because this is not a race in Toronto. This is an event. This is a weekend's event that people come and enjoy. The great thing about IndyCar racing is you can get so close to all the drivers. You can walk up and down pit lane here with the right pass, shoulder to shoulder with some of these drivers. You can walk into the garage area and actually stand and watch the mechanics work on these pristine and expensive racing cars.
That's Robbie Gordon. Now, Robbie Gordon drives for A.J. Foyt. Gordon is often compared to Paul Tracy. Gordon is running 6th.
Well, there are 2 drivers who have made star names for themselves this year in particular. Tracy, we saw examples of it last year, but Tracy and Robbie Gordon. One uses Chevrolet, the other uses Ford. Gordon now in 6th place, but Robbie Gordon is definitely a man of the future, driving for A.J. Foyt. And this weekend, he's carrying the number 28 on the front of his car in memory of Davey Allison.
There you see the number 28 on car 14 as the IndyCar drivers salute the great NASCAR star Davey Allison, who died in the helicopter wreck. Stay with us. We'll return live to Toronto right after this. On board with Bobby Rahal as he chases. Bobby Rahal chasing Al Unser Jr.
This is a great race here. It goes on and on. It's hard to believe. This is what racing's all about. Rahal makes no mistakes, drives as hard as he can. We know how good he is, and he still can't get close enough to make a pass on Al Unser Jr. This is what flat-out racing is all about.
On board with Rahal, he started the year with his own chassis, failed to even qualify for the Indy 500, is back in a Lola chassis through the start-finish area. Comes Bobby Rahal as he chases Al Unser Jr. He had a great comment, though, yesterday when he qualified up near the front. He said, "I'm not used to being interviewed. I'm not accustomed to this. I've been out of it for so long." Down Lakeshore Boulevard.
And of course now he's not just the driver, he's the owner driver. There's Al Jr. Look at the braking zone. Rahal closes up. This is the hairpin at 2nd gear, sometimes 1st. And now we go to the tight, twisty section that's almost impossible to pass in, particularly if it's Al Unser Jr. you're trying to pass.
Al Unser Jr., his Uncle Bobby once said that Al Unser Jr. is the only young driver other than Paul Tracy that he's seen that reminds him of the late Gilles Villeneuve. Villeneuve honored here during Molson festivities this week. Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. won in Toronto in 1988 and won again here in 1990. Now looking back from Al Jr. to Bobby Rahal. Let's stay with us. Watch Rahal close in on the corners. Great shot.
That's the bottom wishbone of the rear suspension that you see. Now look, as he goes faster down the straight, the car gets more downforce. Look, the car pushes down, the wishbone comes up. Watching the braking zone. Look, back of the car comes up, wishbone goes down. When it goes over the bumps, you really, oh, look at Rahal, how close he is to the wall. Watch the bumpy section here. The old wishbone bounce up and down here. That's what shock absorbers are meant to do. Control the wishbones and the suspension. Scott Brayton needs more than shock absorbers to control this deranged rear suspension. Flat rear tire, destroyed, can't even make it back to his pit.
Scott Brayton driving for Dick Simon. Now looking back, Al Jr. to Bobby Rahal. Unser is running 4th, Rahal is running 5th. Now let's look from Bobby Rahal.
This is great in-car camera stuff. Just look at this. The braking zone again. Look. Eases up, edges up, edges up. And as soon as they put the power on, Al Jr. pulls out that critical 2 or 3 car lengths.
One of the great treats for racing fans and television is when the directors, Chris Elias and Jim Marshall, are able to switch back car to car like we do now. We look ahead to Al Unser Jr. You were looking back from Unser to Bobby Rahal. On board. Now we look back to Rahal. Outstanding camera work.
Those cameramen are tiny, sitting in there in that side pod with the camera in their hand, showing us. It gets very hot in there too. They get a haircut on a regular basis through the heat. They're amazing, those little midgets.
And there is Emerson Fittipaldi.
Actually, they are. That's right. They're leprechauns from Ireland.
Folks, I got to work
look
with
at this,
Stewart in
boys.
Montreal and Irishman in Toronto. Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy has now closed up on Emerson Fittipaldi. Now, let's stay with this race. Car 4 is Fittipaldi. Car 12 is Tracy. 15 is not a factor. That is Bashusta. There is Scott Goodyear, car 2. He is running 10th and about to be lapped. Goodyear is car 2. Fittipaldi 4, Bashusta 15, and Tracy 12 is running 2nd.
Oh, Tracy, what's wrong? He slowed down. Oh, it looks as if he missed a gear or something. Slowed down when he tried to get by Matshusta. Lapped cars now are having a bit of an effect here. Matshusta is only 19th. He's in a battle here with Kevin Cogan, but Tracy looks as if he is in attack mode now, about to attack the race leader Emerson. Look at this tandem Marlboro Penske crew here. Oh, here it goes.
Paul Tracy has taken the lead as Emerson Fittipaldi is into the pits. Paul Tracy completing the 72nd lap. It's a 103-lap race, so Fittipaldi is into the pits. Tracy is now the leader. Ken Daniels.
Well, the tank holds 40 gallons, and there are 31 gallons of fuel left, so they are putting it all in. So Emerson Fittipaldi, he'll be running a little bit light, practically empty, I guess, when he just came in here, about 1 gallon left. So they're putting it all in, fresh tires, so he'll be running well to finish, Brian.
As he comes back on the track, Fittipaldi is now running 6th. He's dropped down to 6th place, so it's Paul Tracy, the race leader, Kenny, followed by Danny Sullivan, Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, Raul Boisel. Emerson Fittipaldi is 6th.
Now, the key to this race will be Paul Tracy's pit stop. If he can get in, get serviced, and have a good, fast outlap, he maybe can make the move on Fittipaldi. That's what we need to watch in the next couple of laps.
Car 6 is Mario Andretti, running 10th and a lap down. Car 7 is Danny Sullivan. He is running 2nd, and Sullivan is coming into the pits. Danny Sullivan for Rick Gallis out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. His teammate is Al Unser Jr., so Paul Tracy continues to lead. Al Unser Jr. has moved into 2nd. Sullivan has dropped to 4th behind Rahal. Boisel is 5th. Fittipaldi is 6th. Taking on fluids. It's hot, not too humid here though today.
No, but it's hot when you drive these things as hard as they do. Look at this 12.8. Great stop for Sullivan. Where's Tracy? That's it. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Rahal makes it past. Al Unser Jr. slides down the inside wheel to wheel.
Bobby Rahal is now 2nd. Al Unser Jr. is 3rd. Paul Tracy is the race leader. It's Paul Tracy, followed by Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, Raul Boisel. Fittipaldi is 5th. Sullivan is 6th. Guerrero is 7th. Gordon is 8th. Goodyear is 9th. Mario Andretti is 10th. Bobby Rahal right there, running 3rd.
There is so much going on here, and we don't even have the second set of pit stops completed yet, but Rahal is in the pit lane. Here's a replay. Al Jr. Oh, there's Rahal down the inside. Now, Al Jr. cannot turn in. Rahal has the position. Slow the two cars down, and he just grabs it before he makes his pit stop. Here it is again. It's the braking zone. Al Jr. brakes right there, and Rahal sails past down on the inside.
Bobby Rahal now in the pits. Bobby Rahal has dropped down. Paul Tracy is yet to stop. Paul Tracy, the race leader. Bobby Rahal is back out. Rahal running 3rd behind Tracy and Al Unser Jr. Boisel. There's the race leader, Paul Tracy.
The whole outcome of this race will be determined by Paul Tracy's pit stop. They're leaving him out there longer than Emerson. He's running nice and light on fuel. Remember, Emerson is slower at the moment because he's heavy.
Quickly to Sally Larvick.
A big controversy going on in Danny Sullivan's pit. They are saying that Danny Sullivan exceeded the speed limit coming out of the pits. They say that he went 89 miles an hour coming out. They are currently arguing with the CART officials, and poor Hawkins, you don't agree with that decision at all, do you?
No, we tried the other day, we tested it, and so did Robbie Gordon, who's 2 pits further down. It's impossible to reach 89 mile an hour before the last thing. It's not possible. We tried it, Robbie Gordon tried it, and now they're trying to say that we did, but we're arguing. We don't know what's going to happen yet.
So they haven't decided to give you a stop and go just yet?
No, we're arguing with Billy Camphausen right now, and they're going to start looking it over to see what they can do.
Okay, so we're going to have to wait and see how this works its way out.
All right, Sally, there is Danny Sullivan running third. You talked about controversies, blocking, speeding in the pits. There's Paul Tracy, the race leader. Again, what is the speed limit in the pits?
It's 80 miles an hour, but the whole outcome of the race hangs on Paul Tracy's pit stop.
Let's go to Ken Daniels.
Here. Paul Tracy is in for a new set of tires and as much fuel as they can take on. Again, much in a similar situation to Emerson Fittipaldi. They'll be running a little bit light. Let's see if he can get it into gear. Much better stop than last time. Tracy's away.
Listen to this crowd. Tracy has gone away and maintained his lead. Paul Tracy still leading Emerson Fittipaldi. There is Fittipaldi.
Well, 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 he lost the lead on the first set of pit stops, and now he has a perfect second stop. Paul Tracy is in command of the race, and there is Emerson. There's even cars between Emerson and Paul Tracy.
Now through 75 laps, and let me talk to our director here, our producer Doug Sellers. Are they going to stop Sullivan? They are not going to stop Danny Sullivan, so the speed limit again is what in the pits?
It's 80 miles an hour. Now they will give you a little bit of leeway, a couple of miles an hour, but you're supposed to not exceed 80. If Danny Sullivan is given a stop-and-go penalty, he will go berserk. Because in Cleveland, he went and almost attacked the officials after the race because he got a stop-and-go penalty there also.
All right, word from our truck, producer Doug Sellers, no stop-and-go penalty for Danny Sullivan. Emerson Fittipaldi is second, Sullivan is third. A stop-and-go penalty for the uninitiated means simply that he has to pull in, stop completely, and start again. He would lose his position. Teo Fabi is car 8. Emerson Fittipaldi is car 4. Bobby is way back in 14th place, about to go 2 laps down to the second place car of Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy is the race leader. Danny Sullivan, car 7, goes by Johnny Unser. Danny Sullivan is running third.
It usually takes 2 or 3 laps after the pit stop for the whole complexion of the race to settle down a little bit. But it was a great stop by Paul Tracy. There is not a man here standing at the moment because Paul Tracy, everybody is emotionally behind him to try and pull off his 3rd win of the year. What a great day here in Toronto.
Outstanding racing in Toronto. It's Paul Tracy leading Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, and Alan Sir Jr. 24-year-old Paul Tracy at 190 miles an hour down Lakeshore Boulevard has completed 80 of 103 laps. Tracy trying to win for the 3rd time this season, a winner in Long Beach, a winner 1 week ago in Cleveland as he comes up in car 99. That is Brian Till, who is running 12th and about to go further down in this race. Paul Tracy, should he hang on and win, will be the first Canadian since the late Gilles Villeneuve, Derek, a man you knew well, to win a major race in Canada, his home country. Villeneuve winning the inaugural Formula One race on Ile Notre Dame in Montreal, and that circuit is now named in his honor. Paul Tracy comes through to complete lap 81. He is trailed by Fabi, but Fabi is 14th. Let's see, there's Tracy. Now, Fittipaldi is second. Danny Sullivan is third. Rahal is fourth. Alan Sir Jr. is fifth. Scott Goodyear is eighth.
Well, you can see Tracy is pulling away from Emerson. He's now 5.5 seconds ahead. But Emerson is stuck in traffic. That's Guerrero. Guerrero needs to move aside, and Emerson slides down the inside. At the British Grand Prix and the French Grand Prix that I was at in the last couple of weekends, Paul Tracy's name was being bantered around as a possible driver to talk to Frank Williams. I asked him this weekend, is that true? He said no. He has no interest right now in Formula One. He has a long-term contract and investment, he believes, with Roger Penske. This is where he wants to stay. He doesn't need the distraction of Formula One. But interestingly enough, the person he'd most like to meet is Alain Prost. the current Williams driver, and his racing hero was Ayrton Senna. So F1 has definitely had an influence on his lifetime and his career.
Emerson Fittipaldi, his veteran teammate, now 6 seconds back, comes on to Lakeshore Boulevard. Fittipaldi about to go by Johnny Unser, who is running 16th. Emerson Fittipaldi goes by Johnny Unser. Fittipaldi is still standing second. You're on board with Ray Hall, who is running fourth. We'll return to Toronto right after this. As we come back to the 1993 Molson Indy Toronto, high above the Goodyear airship, the Spirit of Akron, piloted by Captain John Moran as it looks down on the action today. The Goodyear blimp, a familiar sight over major events in North America, has come to Canada to help with our coverage of the Molson Indy. John and crew, thank you. Have a safe flight back to Northern Ohio tomorrow morning. This record crowd of nearly 67,000 hoping that Paul Tracy has a safe and smooth flight to victory. Paul Tracy is the race leader. Emerson Fittipaldi is second. Danny Sullivan is third. And Bobby Rahal is fourth. Now there is Emerson Fittipaldi running second. He's got to go by Jimmy Vassar and some of the other traffic. He goes by Vassar. That is Till. Ryan Till is running 12th, car 99. So the slower traffic is working to the advantage of Paul Tracy as Emerson Fittipaldi is having trouble trying to move up on the race leader.
And here's a traffic jam here. Look at this. Sullivan, Al Jr., and Bobby Rahal are all in a line in third, fourth, and fifth place. Anything could still happen here. We're on board with Rahal. That's Al Unser Jr. just ahead of him. And Danny Sullivan, the second of the Gallus cars, is right there just ahead of Al Jr. What a race this is.
And now behind that, let's look ahead from Al Unser Jr. to Bobby Rahal.
No, they're in a traffic jam here because Sullivan is caught behind some slower traffic himself. Maybe Jr. can get a run on Rahal here. You see he picks a higher gear. No, Rahal's too far ahead. Now we're with Sullivan. There's the traffic jam ahead of Danny Sullivan.
Danny Sullivan has just completed lap 85. It's a 103-lap race down Lakeshore Boulevard with the third-place car of Danny Sullivan. The race leader is Paul Tracy. And remember,
look at this here, look at this.
Willie T. Ribbs trying to block and really almost shut down Danny Sullivan. Now looking ahead to Sullivan. There's Ribbs, there's Sullivan, followed by Bobby Rahal. Willie T. Ribbs not a factor in this race.
We saw him get involved in that crash earlier on when Montermini hit the wall. Willie T. Ribbs did have a delay of almost 3 laps, so he's not a factor, you're right.
And he's running 16th. Al Unser Jr. pursuing Bobby Rahal. I was going to say the best ever finish by a Canadian in Toronto was last year. Scott Goodyear was 6th. Now 86 laps complete through turn number 1. Bobby Rahal, the defending PPG IndyCar champion, leading Al Unser Jr. down Lakeshore Boulevard. It's all clear coming into the passing corners. Sullivan is third. Rahal is fourth. And car 3, Al Unser Jr. right behind him.
And a great race by Danny Sullivan to hang on all the time to this second and third place, watching in his mirrors as Rahal and Al Unser Jr. have mounted attacks all day long. But how difficult it is to catch somebody and make the pass. Again, you see the cars bounce over those bumps on the way through this kink down to turn 9.
Danny Sullivan, car 7, has never won in Toronto. Twice has started on the pole. In 1988 when the race was won by Al Unser Jr. And ironically enough, again in 1990 when the winner was Al Unser Jr. Now, let's hold this shot. This is with Danny Sullivan. Show us what the hands are doing and how they fight the car.
They do fight the car. This is the back straightener. Look at the tape he has in the middle. That shows him and shows us, the camera in particular, where the middle of the steering wheel is. Now watch what happens when he gets down to the corner. Watch the way his hands fight the wheel. Look, fight, back, forth, back. All the time trying to fight that car to keep it on the racing line. You think it's easy, you sit in a seat and drive a racing car. It is physically abusive in these racing cars.
And Scott Goodyear is in the pits. That's Paul Tracy's wife looking on. Scott Goodyear, though, is in the pits. Now, Goodyear was running 8th. He's back out, will possibly lose 2 positions. Scott Goodyear, as I mentioned, 6th here for Jim O'Donnell and Mackenzie 1 year ago. That is the top Canadian finish. However, with 87 laps complete, you're now on board with Scott Goodyear down Lakeshore Boulevard, but with 87 of 103 laps completed, Paul Tracy is the race leader, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Alan Sir Jr., Robbie Gordon, Raul Boisel on board with Goodyear, who is 8th. Mario Andretti is 9th. Guerrero is 10th. Out of the race is Nigel Mansell. Great racing in Toronto will return for the finish right after this. A race leader, Paul Tracy, is on lap 90. Car 12 is Paul Tracy. He's pursuing Kevin Kogan. Kogan is running 15th, about to go 3 laps down. Paul Tracy coming around to complete lap 90. This is a 103-lap race.
And you can see good pictures of the dirt and debris on the racetrack just offline. So Tracy, when he's passing these back markers as fast as he's passing them, has to be careful. You can see it on the left side here. All bits of rubber and shrapnel and stones and sticks and everything. His wife watches. This could be a historic day. Tara Tracy watches as husband goes to work. What a day this could be if this lasts to the end of the race.
It will truly be an historic day for Canadian auto racing, for Canadian sport. Gilles Villeneuve won on Ile Notre Dame in Montreal in '78. Since then, no Canadian has won a Formula One or IndyCar race in this country.
There's a long way to go yet. I know we're on lap 90 or 91. There's a long way to go yet. He still has to be very careful.
Well, Rick Mears is his mentor, and let's go down to Sally Larvik. Sally?
And as you can imagine, the Penske team is very busy now watching what's going on the track. And Rick, I guess the question is, you've been in this situation before with 2 Penske cars running together. Are there any directions given from the pits? Emerson has the points. Are they told to hold back or to go for it?
No, they're racing. They have been, all day long. And it's just a matter of just run what you can. And, you got to be careful and try not to, do any damage to the car, save the equipment as much as you can, tires and everything else to get to the end, but still you've got to be aware and be ready to race if somebody starts pressuring you. So they're just running the race.
Okay, so they're letting them run it by themselves and going as fast as they can and deciding for themselves how well they can do.
That's it. I mean, they're both racing, and that's, they both want to win the race.
Okay, and that's the name of the game. When the green flag falls, it's everybody's game.
Thank you, Sally. Danny Sullivan, car 7, followed by Bobby Rahal and Alan Sir Jr. They are running 3rd, 4th, and 5th, respectively. On board now with Danny Sullivan, who is running 3rd. Now, as we stay on board with Danny Sullivan, let me go back to something Rick Mears said. He talked about the points coming into this race. Nigel Mansell led the overall point standings with 102. He is out of the race. Fittipaldi, 2nd with 88. Boisel, 3rd with 80. Andretti, Mario, 3rd with 75. Paul Tracy has but 62. He could pick up 20 points for a win here this afternoon.
And Paul Tracy could definitely be in championship contention if he keeps the form that he has shown in Cleveland and this weekend. There is no reason. Before this race started, there were 160 possible points to be won during qualifying and practice. Paul Tracy could, qualifying and racing, Tracy could make a legitimate run for the championship. We have 10 laps remaining.
Bobby Rahal goes through ahead of Alan Sir Jr. There's Danny Sullivan running 3rd. Rahal behind him there running 4th. And the car on the right of your screen is Alan Sir Jr. running in the number 5 position. Record crowds here today. They will go absolutely crazy if Paul Tracy can make history this afternoon. There is Paul Tracy going by Kevin Kogan.
See how long it took him to get by Kogan. He has been behind him for 2 or 3 laps. You can see it here, 10 laps to go. But he took his time to get by Kogan, and that has allowed Emerson to creep even closer. It was 6 seconds. Now it's 3.8 seconds is the lead that Tracy enjoys over Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now remember yesterday, car 4, Emerson Fittipaldi, 5 seconds to go in qualifying. Fittipaldi with 5 seconds to go in qualifying yesterday took the pole away from car 12, Paul Tracy. Tracy is the leader. If Fittipaldi can win this race, he will move into first place in the overall standings ahead of Nigel Mansell, who is already out of the race. Paul Tracy goes through the start-finish line, and there are 9 laps to go. 9 laps to go.
Transverse gearboxes in these Penske cars, sequential changes. That means it's like a motorcycle. You just keep hitting the gear lever up and then back down when you want to go up the gearbox or down through the gearbox. Not like the old conventional H pattern that you have on a street car. That makes gear shifting much faster in these cars, which in turn makes these cars faster.
Emerson Fittipaldi through turn number 3 at the end of Lakeshore Boulevard. Emerson Fittipaldi is second. Scott Goodyear is dropped down tonight.
The chase is on, and Emerson has been so good in conditions like this in the past. We drop back and Scott Goodyear. Now he's embroiled in this battle with Sullivan, Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. Unfortunately, it's not for position, so he probably will move aside. Oh, look at Willie T's in the wall. Willie T is in the wall, down at turn 3. This may bring a full course yellow. And if it does, Emerson will be right up on the back of Paul Tracy.
Willie T. Ribbs is out of the car now. Emerson Fittipaldi started on the pole today. Let me stop for a minute. Car 75, Bill Cosby's car, just lost it.
Well, that was something very unusual. I mean, it almost looked as if something broke. He turned in, he was at the apex, and then suddenly he drove it straight into the wall. If that car's not in a dangerous position, they will not bring out a full course yellow.
Danny Sullivan, who is running 3rd, about to pass Scott Goodyear, who is running 9th. Still no full course yellow. It looks like they will not bring it out. There's Mario Andretti, followed by Paul Tracy. Andretti is running 8th. Paul Tracy, the race leader. 8 laps to go. Paul Tracy in first, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr., Robbie Gordon, Raul Boisel, Mario Andretti, Scott Goodyear, and Roberto Guerrero rounding out the top 10.
And if you look closely at Paul Tracy's car, there are battle scars all over that car. You can see them, black marks from the rubber that gets thrown up from other racing cars. But there is Emerson. Now we are down to 3.5 seconds. So Emerson is closing.
Emerson has picked up a 1.5 seconds on the last lap. We should be in for an unbelievable finish. Emerson Fittipaldi is now gaining on Paul Tracy. There's Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr., 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Mario Andretti about to be lapped by Paul Tracy, the race leader. Mario Andretti is running 8th.
And he's never easy to pass. Mario very seldom ever moves over. He really should do it here and let the leader go just sail through. He doesn't do it. Oh, look at this. He tries to squeeze through on the inside.
Now you see how close Emerson Fittipaldi is to Paul Tracy. Now Paul Tracy not getting by Mario Andretti. Andretti refusing to let him get by. Tracy goes by him on Lakeshore Boulevard. So Mario Andretti held up Paul Tracy. Let's see if he does the same to Emerson Fittipaldi. Hogan is not a factor as he went through. The race leader is Paul Tracy right there. Mario Andretti now 2 laps down, running back in the field.
They have made a determination that Willie T. Ribbs' car is not in a dangerous position. All the drivers have now passed it at least one time, so they know exactly where it is. Therefore, let the race continue. No yellow flag.
Emerson Fittipaldi seems to now be slowing down.
Tracy then is in control. He's being careful as he laps traffic because now we've gone back up to just over 5 seconds. the gap between Tracy, who we see here, and Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate, the man in second place, and the man who is leading the championship at the moment. Look at the marks all over that car. Black scuff marks from rubber and tires and debris and everything. Typical battle scars that you get on a street racing circuit like Toronto. See all the marbles? See all the rubber on the outside? That's where you don't want to be if you're trying to go offline to pass somebody. Oh, gee, here's this battle again. Look at this. This is a war. This isn't a battle.
On board with Bobby Rahal as he chases Danny Sullivan for third place. 5 laps to go. Now on board with Danny Sullivan as he looks ahead to Emerson Fittipaldi. It's Paul Tracy, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan. There's Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. is running 5th. Paul Tracy is being chased by 4 former IndyCar champions. Emerson Fittipaldi, Danny Sullivan, the current champion Bobby Rahal, and 2-time Toronto winner Al Unser Jr. Danny Sullivan goes down Lakeshore Boulevard running in 3rd place.
Look at Rahal, has a little poke down the inside. Scott Goodyear now is ahead of this group, still ahead of this group. They haven't managed to claw their way past him yet. Goodyear needs to stay ahead of them and out of their way. Goodyear currently running in 9th place.
Race leader Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy completes lap 100. 3 laps to go. 3 laps to go. And the first Canadian, his wife Tara, looks on. Paul Tracy, 3 laps to go to become the first Canadian to ever win an IndyCar race in his home nation, and the first Canadian since the late Gilles Villeneuve to win a major international event in Canada. Paul Tracy, who told me earlier in the week, I just want to get in this car and relax. It's been so much pressure coming home. Emerson Fittipaldi is 2nd. I mentioned Gilles Villeneuve. Sid Brittle, who organizes the media conferences, said the other day when they had to hold a special news conference for Paul Tracy on Thursday, I have never seen anything like this since the days when Gilles Villeneuve was running in Formula One.
Well, there's nothing brings out the hometown crowd more than one of their own taking on the world's best in one of the biggest races in the world, and what a performance he gives.
2 laps to go. 2 laps to go for 24-year-old Paul Tracy. He is now known as the Thrill from West Hill. Paul Tracy. The last pit stop, very important, as you pointed out, Derek Daly.
Well, we said the race, the balance of the race will hang on the pit stop. Tracy's last stop was almost 3 seconds faster than Emerson's. What did Sullivan just took a tear off? It must have been a tear off from his helmet. You can see him throw it off. But Paul Tracy had a great pit stop. He's so fortunate. Remember, he started as a test driver for our Penske back in 1991. Then Mears got injured. He took over, and then Mears decided to retire and presented this golden opportunity to the Thrill from West Hill.
There is the white flag. 1 lap to go. The pictures need no description.
You can see the crowds standing cheering.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Tracy has indeed made history. Paul Tracy from West Hill, Ontario. His wife Tara looks on. Tracy, a standing ovation from a record crowd of 66,000 plus. Paul Tracy is the first Canadian. There's Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate, finishing second. On board with Danny Sullivan will be third. Ray Hall will be fourth. Al Unser Jr. fifth. Scott Goodyear will finish ninth. But Paul Tracy becomes the first Canadian to win an IndyCar race in Canada. Paul Tracy salutes the fans, and we go down to Sally Larkin.
And as you can imagine, a very ecstatic Roger Penske. I mean, who do you cheer for with both of your cars running as well as they did today?
Well, I think it was a key day today with Mansell falling out in both Emerson and Paul. Emo had to run a little different race. We had a real quick stop there at the end, which put us ahead of Emerson, but otherwise I think the cars were real equal. You can see 4 or 5 seconds at the end of the day is not that much, but hey, they both finished. Our crews did an outstanding job, and congratulations to certainly Paul in his hometown and Emerson for taking the point lead.
And it's not bad for your team either. This has been a great team this year.
I love it. Thank you.
Congratulations, Roger.
You know, Sally, as we look at Paul Tracy says, having been a driver himself, Roger Penske understands what happens in the cockpit. Penske says effort equals results, and Penske got the results here today, finishing 1-2 with Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi. The moment, though, belongs to Paul Tracy from West Hill, Ontario. Just let you enjoy these pictures, and our crew is standing by. We'll hear from Tracy the moment he gets up.
As Paul Tracy salutes the crowd here in Toronto, you know, 6 times now in 8 years, the previous week's winner has made it to the podium here in Toronto. Of course, Paul Tracy, a winner last week in Cleveland, and he's not only on the podium here, but he's on the podium in a first-place finish, and as Brian Williams mentioned, the first Canadian.
The CSA moved into their new building. Don also decided to move to a new supplier for their new telecommunications.